Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified business and leadership coach here in Columbus, Ohio. And today, my guest is David Fisher. He is the owner of Kepler Fisher LLC, an attorney's firm. And he's got a very unique approach to that. And he's in a very, very interesting and wonderful point in his life. And I'm going to hopefully have him share that about today. Again, if you're going to join us, please subscribe and like to this channel so you can come back to this again and see it and see all the future ones as well. Today, we are going to look at the practices, the challenges of business, and get a little peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. And again, we're looking at this from David's point of view of already creating a business that's working wonderfully for him. So David, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, I likewise here. The fact that you're here with us and going to share your wonderful story. If you could, for the audience, could you give just a brief overview of your background, a little bit about how you got here today, and give us that insight into that attorney practice of yours?
Sure, happy to. So, once again, my name is David Fisher, and the name of the firm is Kephart Fisher. We're located in central Ohio and Columbus. But one of the things that is quite unique about us is while my partners and my associates and our business is located here in central Ohio, most of our work is done outside of central Ohio. And we can talk a little bit about that if Rick would like to inquire a little bit further about that. But interestingly, as our client base has grown, most of our clients are located on the West Coast or in the ski mountain regions in the Southwest, Arizona, places like that. And we just grew that way organically, which I'm happy to talk about. But it's very interesting because what we find is while we're a small boutique law firm in Central Ohio, we really have a nationwide footprint. In an average year, we do deals in 20 to 25 different states of the United States. Kephart Fisher's been around since 1986. I began life as a lawyer in what you'd refer as public finance practice. I was doing bonds for hospitals and schools, all tax exempt for the most part, working with investment bankers in New York and Chicago and elsewhere. But always had a very keen interest in real estate, in large part due to the fact that as a young kid through high school and college, I'd worked in the title insurance business. So I knew a lot about real estate. And so over that time, I expanded my platform to do more and more real estate deals. And it kind of grew from there. I kind of did what clients asked me to do. So shall I say, I've morphed myself a number of times over the years to do things what clients ask us to do. So today, while I still have a strong real estate background and presence, I also do a lot of land planning and zoning work. I do a lot of private equity structurings in the private equity space for investment groups that are looking to invest in real estate and other assets around the country. Kephart Fisher has four partners, a couple of associates on top of that. We have a big support staff. We also have what most people know as a family office where we provide back office support to private equity funds to provide financial support, banking account information, tax provisions for them, and investor reporting. So while it's all very limited and boutique, that's sort of what we do, Rick.
Awesome, awesome. So to set the stage for the viewers, David, is it just you and the four partners, or are there any outside investors into your firm?
Well, as a lawyer, you cannot have outside investors to share profits as a lawyer. At least currently, there's some move afoot, and some states are changing their laws to in the United States to be a lawyer and to share profits. The only persons you can share profits with are other lawyers.
Fabulous, super. And so with that, what is the role that you play currently in that business? You mentioned four partners. Which hat do you wear?
Well, I'm the founder. I've been doing this for a long time. Started practicing law in 1981 and formed Kephart Fisher, then Kephart Fisher and Rogers in 1986. Have been in that posture ever since. Since 1991 or thereabouts, I've been the managing partner of the firm and have added partners over the years. So I continue in the role as the managing partner of the firm. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm taking care of the making the firm decisions in terms of business and finance and those sorts of things that go along with operation of a business. Got some great partners though that are working really hard in helping build and develop our business.
Super. So as that key founder and lead of the partner, how would you divide up your time percentage wise? How much are you looking to the future, strategic and planning? And how much are you down in the weeds of the day-to-day client management and case processing?
Well, I'd like to say I'm not down in the weeds as much as I am. Historically, I've been really trying to manage the firm, grow the firm, market the firm, and do all the work that comes in that needs my expertise or talents to get done. So I'm sort of like the cobbler with kids with no shoes sometimes. But I will tell you that we recently, about a year or so ago, we did a restructure where my partners are taking on more of the roles of helping make decisions on things like insurance and employee mentoring and those sorts of things. So I think we're really moving along a good path to help the firm grow through the talents of just more than one person.
Super, super. Dig just a little deeper because when you and I were talking last, you mentioned that your firm has a very special business relationship and a different relationship than a standard law firm has with their clients. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Sure. I'm not sure how different or unique it is, but I would say that for the most part, our clients are friends, and I invest with clients of the firm. And some of our clients, if you would interview them, would say, "You're sort of like an in-house outside counsel to us. We come to you for all of our needs, and to the extent that you're not able, due to your qualifications or expertise, to help us, you find us and send us to the right people to help us on those." And so it's sort of like a general counsel role to those people. But most importantly, I have deep personal relationships with so many of them that are very meaningful to me. It's interesting. I got an inquiry the other day on a particular area of expertise from a fellow out of California, and my response was, "Yes, that's an expertise we have, and yes, I can help. But if this is just a one and done deal for these people, we don't do one and done. We build relationships, and we look to bring people into our client base and into our stable to become friends and clients of the firm long term." And so the guy said, "Thanks very much. I understand it and I appreciate it. I'll find somebody else to do it."
Fabulous. Super, super. You shared with me again when last we spoke, you're at a specific stage in your career. And so the standard question that I ask is, where do you see the business in the next 3 to 5 years? But if you could start with what you're currently doing, which I thought was fascinating, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but take that current activity that you personally are doing and then project that for you yourself the next 3 to 5 years. What do you see?
I want to make sure I'm understanding your question, Rick. Are you talking about my thank you tour?
That's it.
Okay, good. So, yeah, a couple of years ago, I'm 71 years old. So, a couple of years ago, I had this epiphany that there are a lot of people that have touched my life and have touched my business and my experiences in very unique and meaningful ways. And I've never really said thank you to them. And so I started this thing called the Thank You Tour. In fact, I'm writing a book about it, about the people I'm thanking. And it's a long list. I mean, it goes all the way back to my parents and mentors when I was a kid, and people that took me under their wing when I was growing up, helped me experience life, helped me mature and make decisions along the way. But there's also some very important people in my business, which, since this is a business call, let's talk about that. So I mentioned where our client base is, and that's not really very Columbus, Ohio centric. So many years ago, 30 plus years ago, I got a call from a fella that was in the title insurance business whom I knew and said, "Hey, I just closed a deal in Newark, Ohio for a California real estate investor, and he really didn't like his lawyer. And he said, 'Do you know a good real estate lawyer in Central Ohio that I could recommend?' And so I gave him your name." And from that grew an incredible multi-million dollar relationship that has prospered over 30 plus years with this group out of California. So my first thank you tour dinner was to take this fella and his wife to dinner. By the way, I never tell them why. I just say, I need to talk to you about something important. And so I took the fella and his wife to dinner here at a lovely Columbus restaurant. We had a nice dinner together. And I just said, you know what? Thanks. Thanks for that referral so many years ago that has been so meaningful and so prosperous for my business. And then interestingly enough, the fellow whom he referred me to, I caught up with he and his wife in Park City, Utah a couple weeks ago. And once again, I arranged ahead of time. Could we have dinner together? There's something I want to share with you that's special. And so we caught up for dinner one night in Park City, Utah. And once again, I just thanked him for his friendship, for his belief in me, for his support of my business, and the trust that he put in me over those many years. And interesting, at that dinner, he said, he kind of wiped his brow, said, "Shoo, I was afraid you're going to tell me you were going to retire." And I was going to say, if you're retiring, I'm going to have to retire, and I'm not ready to retire yet. So it was a fun dinner, but it includes people like my in-laws, my wife's parents. I took them to dinner and thanked them for letting me marry their lovely daughter. And the list goes on and on and on. I build that list because I want to write chapters in this book about each of these people. And I'm probably up to 20 chapters of people now, and it's growing as I think of more people that I say, wow, they really did something unique for me. They really touched me, and I want to say thank you for what they did for me.
David, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. That is one personally touching to me. And that just so exemplifies all of the different books and philosophies on expressing gratitude. And you've taken that to what I think a higher level and added your own style to it. And it warms my heart. I know it's got to warm yours every time you do it. I'm kind of curious, as you're doing that, you shared your age. I'm not going to repeat that. I think that's wonderful. And, as I once saw something on the internet that says once you hit 60, if you haven't done it, you don't need to do it. And you should enjoy everything that you are doing right now. I believe that you are absolutely living proof of that philosophy. As you go forward, you also have a responsibility to pass that type of legacy on. Writing the book absolutely is a piece of that. Coming in closer, your partners and your other people in your team, are you purposefully looking to guide them, coach them, mentor them to understand what you're doing and how that fits into not only business, but life?
I think I am, Rick. I'm trying. I got a bunch of great people that I work with. I've never believed in the hierarchy that goes with most law firms. We have a very flat organization. The receptionist at the front desk is every bit as important as me. If she doesn't answer the phone politely and nicely and get you where you need to go, you might not call again. So to me, to my way of thinking, everybody's important to the overall operation. It's like a baseball team. If the shortstop isn't doing his or her job, you're not going to score the runs. So, it's all important to me. And I think I am. And I've talked to my partners a lot about this when we have meetings, that I do want to mentor them. I do want to help them grow the firm into the next generation. And I think we're doing a pretty good job with that. I think you can always do better. I think there's always room for improvement. But what I think probably the most important lesson in all of this, and it's the one I mentioned about the first guy on my thank you tour, is good work begets good work and begets more clients and work. And you can do all the marketing and advertising in the world, but there's no better marketing or advertising than your reputation as a professional, and really in any business. But when people talk about you, and when people that have been across the table from you say, you know what, I saw how that guy worked, and I want him on my team. Whether you're selling shoes, selling legal services, selling insurance, whatever it is, it's just an important thing to be the best you can be and recognize that each day you're selling yourself. Interesting story about that. Years ago, so I'm a minister's son. So my father had a very successful ministry, and I had a father-in-law that was quite nice. That he, whenever they'd come visit, he'd come to church, to my dad's church, and we'd all go to lunch together afterwards. Well, that father-in-law was a cigarette smoking, martini drinking, hard living businessman that always drove a big Cadillac, had a very successful business. So one day we go to lunch after church, and he said to my father, he said, "You know, I get it." He said, "You and I are a lot alike." And I'm thinking, I can't wait to see where this goes, how these two guys are alike. And so he said, "You know what? We're both salesmen." He said, "I got to go out every day and knock on doors and do cold calls and make telephone calls and try to sell the product that I'm selling." And by the way, he was very, very successful with that and made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But he said to my dad, "You know what? You're a salesman too. You have to stand up in that pulpit and say something to them that's inspiring that they want to hear. So they put money in the plate this week and come back next week, see you again and put some more money in the plate." And you know what, Rick? He's not all wrong about that. He's not all wrong. We all need to sell and market ourselves to the best of our abilities and to show gratitude to people like we talked about earlier, and to demonstrate to people we care about you. We care about, in the case of a lawyer, we care about what your problem is, what you're trying to resolve, and do our best.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. That again is another moving story here. And as you were sharing that of the two different personalities actually being in common, I'm envisioning my own life story of starting out in the military and being a leader, and having that same level of sales, but also the trust and the confidence. And words are one thing, but your soldiers can see right through words if your actions are not absolutely congruent with your words. And when both of them put together earn their trust, and they know that you've got their best interests in heart and they can trust you, they'll die for you.
Yeah.
Then you fast forward into business, and you're right. Business is about people to people. Yes, there are the commodities out there of buying from Amazon and never even knowing the people, but you're in the business of you have to trust people, and that trust is given. It's not earned, it's given. We can earn it all we want, but the end result is with the other party. If there was a magic wand that I had, and we could pick an area of training for your people to focus on in the next 6 months of this year, and that would be done for you, and that would give you the next level up, the peace of mind or the ability to double down on your thank you tour, what would that one area of training be?
Well, first of all, I want to be careful because these guys may watch this someday. I work with a great group of people. I'm very proud of our team and how we function. And so I would say that my role, I tell my team this all the time. My goal in the years ahead is to not be a crutch, but be a resource. So I want you to work to the highest level and think as hard as you can and solve as much as you can. And when you need me, I'll always be there for you. I think it's so easy as a leader sometimes, especially in a profession like law, where it's so intense in terms of the thought processes, to not trust anybody else. So, I've learned to trust. I've learned to say to these people, work to the highest level you can get to, and then ask me the best question you can ask, so that we're all growing through this process, so that one day I can feel comfortable that I can go play golf or go shoot birds or whatever I choose to do, and sail off into the sunset. Though I got to tell you, Rick, I love what I do. I'm not sure that day's ever going to come.
I amen to that. You are living proof of the person that said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
So good on you for that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. This is such a collection of that you not only are sharing in words, but sharing in ability and actions as well, and being grateful to everything that has happened around you and using that as the great universal multiplier. I really appreciate you sharing that story today, David. And for the audience, listen, we have certainly covered a lot of ground in this conversation today, and there are so many great nuggets that David has shared. Please think about coming back and watching this thing a couple more times. I know every time I watch it, I'm going to find another nugget that David has shared with us. So as we wrap up, I'd like to hit a section called the rapid fire questions. These are just a series of questions where I'm looking for one word, top of your mind. You ready for these?
Yep.
Super. David, what would be your key to success?
Finding something you love and sticking with it.
Your answer, I'm going to ask one more in that area. What's one piece of advice that you would give to another attorney?
Don't fall into the trap of that often becomes drudgery for lawyers. Find some area within the law that excites you, that interests you. You feel like you're making a difference, and all else will follow, whether it's success or money or pride. All else will follow if you do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm almost afraid to ask this next question because you have been such a wealth of living by example. But what's one book that you're either reading now or have read recently that you'd love to share with the audience?
I just finished a book. It's a big one, so you got to be ready for it. It's called King by a fellow named EIG. It's this life story of Martin Luther King Jr. And I got to tell you, I couldn't put it down because I lived through that. I lived through the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the Vietnam War, and all those topics that are brought up in there. And I have to tell you, Rick, what's troubling to me is I read it, I couldn't put it down, but I'm not sure how far we've gone since then in this country in terms of race relations, in terms of love for your fellow man, in terms of gratitude, and a lot of the things we've just talked about. I'm just not sure. The fella gave his life to those principles, and we're still fighting to make them a reality, and I find that very troubling.
I would agree with you 100%. I'm not going to convert or contradict that in any way, but I would also ask you to find another example of the same type of struggle today that was written in the Bible eons ago. We're still struggling in that area. Perhaps that's just man's plight, is to continue to struggle until somebody finally thumps us upside the head.
Oh, I agree, Rick. You know,
I love the book. That's a great recommendation. I'm definitely going to add that to my list.
I mean, it's interesting to me. It kind of comes into play with, as you get older and you become more contemplative about life and what lies behind and what lies ahead, shall we say. I just really come to the conclusion that I don't really do hate. I do love okay. Probably my wife would say not as good as I should, but I just really can't do hate. And there's so much hate in the world. And if we could somehow extricate that, and whatever it is about world peace or international relations or governments or peoples or relationships, hate is just a really destructive emotion.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think you've hit on a point there. There's so much of institutional learning that is focused on the words, the facts, the actions, and not as much on the emotion. Bought my latest car on 100% emotion. And then I came home and justified it on all of the facts. It gets better gas mileage. It gets this, it gets that. Just happens to be a Corvette convertible that
Oh
I
boy.
bought on 100% emotion.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. Been there, done that.
Yep. Yep. Hey, listen, before we get to the final question of the day, what you've shared further or to engage you and your law practice, what's the best way of them getting in touch with you?
Okay, so our website's www.kephartfisher.com, and my personal email is davidfisher@kephartfisher.com, Hartfisher. I'll leave you with one line, Rick. We have a trademark slogan at Kephart Fisher that to me is a very subliminal message about who we are and what we do. That slogan is selling solutions, not time. Most people think about lawyers as I'm going to call that lawyer up and he or she's going to bill me for the 5 minutes I talk. We're not about that at all. We're about helping you solve your problems.
And that's great. That's great. And that leads right into the final question of today. And that is, David, what is most inspiring to you?
My wife.
Wonderful answer. I'm not even going to follow that up. I didn't get to be this old by being so silly as to follow that up. That's a great question and a wonderful way to wrap this up. David, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. Thank you to the audience for watching this. And I hope you were as inspired as I was giving this interview with David. Man, it was just super. So guys, get outside, make it a great day, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.